So you're an artist and you have some dreams for what could be possible for your art career, and yet they feel a little bit distant, like a little bit like, could I really go for that? Could I really, make that my dream and work towards it? I've had this same inquiry periodically through my career, that I see other artists doing incredible things and I think, could I do that? Is that the right size for me, the right fit, the right product, the right way to do it? And I've gotten snarled a few times of thinking and wishing that that's what I wanted, but once I start to implement it and actually explore the possibility, it turns out that it's not actually in alignment with me. It's something that another artist is having success with that I admire. So I think it's interesting to look at what are the things specifically that they're doing, if we can break it down into kind of the metaphorical chunks versus the actual physical things that they're doing. So in my case, there's a couple of artists that have moved into print sales that have been super successful for them. And I see it as a model for the future, something that I could be working towards. And the other piece was that these two artists, they have huge followings on social media, probably on their websites, their gallery followings, all that kind of thing. So they have way more demand for their work than they can possibly produce in originals. So the prints make a lot of sense. I don't have that same circumstance. I don't have more demand for my originals than I can meet at this point. That will come, but I don't have that at the moment. So the print sales for me are an offering for the future, but not necessarily right at the moment, that it may not be the right decision. But keeping that in mind, I want to get really great photos of my original artwork. So if they're sold, I have the opportunity to do prints down the road, right? That I have the really high resolution image to work with for the future, for products and for prints. So I think the art dream piece can be a little bit difficult to kind of grab hold of. And until we start working towards it, we may not know if it's exactly what we want. And there's a kind of a proverb around that it's way easier to steer the car when you're moving than when you're stuck parked in, on the curb or whatever. So as we get moving, it's way easier for us to course correct than if we're at a dead standstill. So my question is, if you could have your art career any way that you want, what would you be doing? Like, what would be different from what you're currently doing? And what I often hear is artists want more sales, for sure. They want more exposure. They want more reach for their artwork. All of that can happen. And the sales, in my experience, they take time. It isn't, you post it on social media and it sells the next day. I mean, that can happen for sure, but that's not typically how it happens. Typically, there's more of a conversation. There's a bit of a longer buying cycle than you post it one day and it's sold the next. That generally isn't how it works. So when we think about selling our artwork, how do we engage in that conversation? And one thing, you may not always consider is that your audience doesn't necessarily know how to engage with your artwork. They don't know how to talk about it. They don't know what they think or feel about it. They see it and think, oh, there's a nice painting. But it doesn't generally go beyond that. They admire it. They might think it's beautiful, they might like it, but it's very analytical. It isn't getting to the heart of what that artwork could do for them. And as my mentor, Jessica Saran, says, people are not clamoring to buy paint on canvas. It's really not that important to them. The reason they buy artwork is because they understand the meaning and the message and the inspiration and the location and all those nuances of how a piece was created, why a piece was created. And I think as artists, it becomes important to kind of flesh out the languaging that we use to talk about our artwork in order for our audience to connect to it in a deeper, more meaningful way. And that can be difficult because as artists, we don't always know what to say about our artwork. So I currently have, I don't know if you can see there, I currently have 4 paintings, one more actually that's not present here today, in a series of white peonies. So I'm going to be diving in and doing a little bit more kind of meditative, reflective listening about what these paintings are trying to tell me so that I'm able to engage with my audience in a little bit deeper and more meaningful way. Now, the reason I'm talking about all this is because this is part of my upcoming program. I have a 4-week mentorship designed entirely to collect a cohesive body of work and flesh out some of the languaging around that body of work and looking at how you're currently promoting your artwork. Do you have an email list? Do you have a website? Do you have social media? Like, how are you getting the word out about your offering? And then I want to look at the fear of criticism, the self-doubt, the worry, all of those psychological aspects that come along with sharing our work, being vulnerable and sharing our work. So that becomes an important element to consider as we're getting our artwork out into the world. So I want to spend 4 weeks diving into these various topics, very specific, very focused work, with the intention of getting a cohesive body of work together for you to promote to your audience and start to generate the sales that will give you the affirmation, for your future career. And the sales may not come in the 4 weeks, they may not come in 6 weeks, they may not come in 8 weeks, but it starts the conversation with your audience and they can understand what your process is all about. So I think this is an important element, an important tool for you to have in your toolbox and your repertoire of art knowledge, so that you can further your work in the world. And as you develop more cohesive bodies of work, you'll have the tools to language and promote and share that work moving forward. So it's a great tool to learn. If you're interested, I will share the link, and I have a link in my bio if you're on Instagram, so that you can get a little bit more information about that. All right, let me know if you have any questions. We'll chat soon. Bye.